adjust. I think I'd kind of move to an agnostic claim. I'm agnostic as to whether there is a moral obligation or if there is not a moral obligation.
Right. So how would you manage to like I guess the issue is then really it's obviously a very big shift. Obviously saying something is not and never has been a moral obligation versus saying that you're indifferent to the idea of a moral obligation is a different obviously statement to make. So what would you say was your actual position, and then we'll try and outline what we're arguing so that it's clear, clear as day, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, no worries. Look, I guess I'd just be agnostic as to whether any moral obligations exist at all.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough. And so meta-ethics, okay. And is there a reason specifically that you chose the topic of veganism?
No, not necessarily. No.
Oh, right. So it's just so you don't see a differentiation between animals and humans that gives any rise to a difference in obligation to one or the other.
Sorry, I'm not following. I don't know. I'm not following. What did you ask?
So like, what I'm asking is there a reason that you would have taken the position about animals in relation to veganism, that we would not be obligated to animals, but would be obligated to humans if moral obligations did exist? Is there a reason that you would argue for that?
No, look, I don't think we're obligated to serve humans in any way, and I also don't think we're obligated to serve animals in any way.
Right, serve them.
Yeah.
Do you mean like? Do you mean on a plate, or do you mean? Like...
No, I'm talking morally. So I don't think there would be a difference between, for example, like punching an animal in the face and punching a human in the face.
And you consider that servitude? So you'd say that by not punching someone in the face.
In a sense, I would call it so. I don't want to be semantic. I don't want this to be semantic.
I just want to be specific, because I think if you're making a point when you say serving, it seems to me that you're saying that there is a power differential there, that you are sacrificing your power towards another individual when you consider them as with equal consideration. You see, what I would say is actually the inclusion of other individuals is empowering in terms of the expression of our freedom. So it has relevance in considering our obligations to ourselves even.
Okay, I'm unsure what kind of criticism you're trying to give me right now.
It's not a criticism. I'm just wondering, like, if you mean the word servitude, because you said servitude, like you said serve. It obviously it points to me towards the idea of power. Like if you're a moral servant, then you are being controlled in some way. Now that's relevant in relation to the meta-ethical argument I'm going to make. So is there a reason that you're saying, serving another? Is there a specific reason that you're taking that position? Or is it just the word that you decided to use? So could it be replaced with something like considering? Would that be a synonymous in this scenario?
Yeah, thanks for the donation, by the way. Look.
It wasn't a donation, it was a follow-up.
Right. I don't think I'm saying any of that at all. I'm not even sure what you're trying to. What are you trying to ask me?
1 second. I'm just gonna.
James Heller donated.
Yeah, cool. Right. Okay. Okay. So what I'm trying to ask is whether you meant anything in particular by using the word serve. That's all. Like, was there a reason that you chose that word? That's all I'm asking.
I guess all I meant was like treatment.
Okay. It's just because a lot of people usually in terms of ethics, so you understand that, like, I don't know how much ethics you've studied or engaged with, but a lot of people consider power relationships in ethics to be vitally important. And some people talk about moral servitude.
Okay, I don't think I don't think that concept was invoked. All I'm really seeking I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this debate. Thank you for attending. By the way, all I'm really seeking is why, like, why would I have a moral obligation to avoid eating animals?
Okay, that's something I can answer. I would say that for the expression of your own subjectivity. So I would say that ultimately everyone is being urged towards action in relation to their own subjectivity. We're all, individuals with our own desires, and that those desires and that the proper understanding of those desires is only possible when we consider a universal. And that universal, one second, I'm going to have to mute that. That's going to do my head in. Thank you for the follows, guys. I really do appreciate it. I thought I'd just turn that off. Okay. So the reason I would say that you can only talk about a universal is because of the way language works and the way that we understand ourselves. It's like it's actually trolling us now. It's like, I swear to God. One second. If I can just turn that off, it's going to just...
Yeah, look,
Okay.
just to reinforce, I do want to like bolster that. I'm hoping this is going to lead to why there is an obligation as to why I should not eat animals.
Yeah. Basically, I would say that you have an obligation in relation to sentience and this expression of subjectivity itself. And then, it doesn't matter what I do. I can't. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. There we go. Right. Okay. So I'd say you have an obligation towards the expression of your own subjectivity, well, actually subjectivity itself. And I would say that the reason you have that is it's embedded in your nature, that you have an action urging process which moves you to try and express desire in the greatest way possible. And animals must be considered in that for you to be rational. Now, I can give like a breakdown.
So this is... hold on, can we just pause for a second? So this is your argument. Can we just lay it out premise by premise conclusion?
I'm not going to write a syllogism. No.
No, look, I'll write it. I'll write it out myself. And we can just lay it out. Premise, and then conclusion. So
yeah, that's fine.
So what's the first premise?
Okay. All individuals seek to express their desires. Or desire, whichever.
Okay. Second premise. Okay. So first premise is all individuals seek to express their desires.
Yes.
Do you see the problem with that premise?
No.
Well, we could take someone. Are you on the Ask Yourself server, for example?
No, because that would be me deliberately inhibiting my desires.
Look, I don't know what you're trying to say there. I'm just gonna grab a link from there.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Me saying that. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be on Ask Yourself server. It's not the format for me.
Okay. Look, that's a good joke. I appreciate that. I'll just post in debate. I'll just post in debate chat a link from one of their bots. Do you think that Bree hold on. Do you think that Bree seeks to express her desires?
Yes.
I posted in. Now, how have you inferred that that's the case?
Because that individual has positive and negative relationships within the world and, reacts in relation to that positive and negative stimuli.
Can you give me an example of a positive or negative relationship that she experiences?
One second, I can just smell fire, so...
Oh, dude, you better check it out. Just run outside and have a look.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's someone burning something. It's okay. I made it straight myself. Okay. I would say that she desires not to feel like she would recoil at physical abuse, for example. Recoil in pain in relation to, like being burnt or something like that, physical pain. I would say that she probably has emotional needs that are, varying in complexity in relation to our psychological state. For those of you who don't know, like he's posted a disabled individual. I can't tell our condition based on obviously observation. I don't know what our mental states are capable of, and what she's capable of as an individual.
Okay. So it sounds like you're starting it off with like you're making a claim about how she feels, but then it sounds like you're finishing it off with like I don't know how Brie feels. I don't know how. So I guess I'll be charitable and I'll say I guess I'll be charitable and I'll say I guess I'll be charitable. I'll just say like you're just agnostic as to how she feels. You don't really know.
No, I know that you can feel pain and pleasure in relation to our actions. I think that is fundamental to all conscious sentient creatures, and regardless of our disability, I don't think there is any reason to understand her as a being incapable of having conscious sensation.
Mm. Okay, I get. Look, this. I think this is just secondary. So that was your first premise. No, just in relation to your syllogism that you're giving. I'm writing out for you. So your first premise is that all individuals seek to something they desire. What was it?
Express their desires.
Right. I guess it's just semantic. Like, obviously, not every single individual. Obviously, we agree there. We don't even have to clarify. What's the second premise?
So you agree with the first premise? Okay. The second premise is that the expression.
No, hold on. I don't agree with the first. I'm being charitable. I'm saying, obviously, not every single individual.
I'm not trying to get a gut read here. I'm just trying to understand whether.
Look. Just think logically. Obviously, not every single individual seeks to express their desires. Like, for example, take someone who's fucking quadriplegic, can't even move their arms, their eye, their like head or their body. They can't really express their desire. It's not like every single individual could express their desires.
But there's a difference between being incapable of doing it and having the desires and the desire to express them. So like having the action urging process, like even if you are, incapable of movement, you may desire to move, for example. You may look to the time in which you did move and wish that you could move. Like,
right. And even granting that, how would that kind of a person who couldn't move any part of their body, how could they express their desires?
I said seeks to express their desires.
But now you're just moving the goalpost, because your initial premise was all individuals seek to express their desires.
Yes, that's exactly what I just said again.
But do you have access to the intentions of, like, say, a paralyzed individual?
I would say that there are certain intentional states that we could place upon them, and I think that there are other states in which would be encompassed in the universal of in which we would understand humans in general. So we would understand, for example, that human beings.
Well, you're just not answering my question. I'm asking you, do you have access? Do you have access to the intentional states of like a completely paralyzed person?
Not necessarily. It depends. It depends. I mean, like private access.
Then how would you know that that this completely paralyzed person seeks to express their desires?
Because that individual can only be understood in reference to the universal, which is their humanity. So they are a paralyzed human. The fact that that they're paralyzed in the first place implies that you're already encompassing the concept of humanity to them, to say that they should be able to walk. It's a functional concept. So understanding that concept in relation to that humanity implies a certain interests on part of the patient.
You're just giving me gibberish. You haven't really offered an argument. You're just giving me complete gibberish.
Okay, I'll try and say that again a bit slower. So the individual who is paralyzed, our understanding of that individual, even to say that they are paralyzed, implies that we have attributed a concept of humanity to them. Okay? That we understand a basic fundamental nature in relation to what they are. So rather than saying like someone is paralyzed, like there's a difference between someone who is paralyzed and someone who is dead, for example. And we know that in terms of the state of being in which they are. So ontologically, that means the study of being, we have already attributed a concept which lets us understand them in a way that expresses functions. Individuals who walk, for example, are not considered paralyzed. And the reason for that is because
I don't.
No, I'll just express it. The reason that we attribute that, not being, the reason that we don't say that someone it can't like necessarily is not paralyzed is because we take it as part of the concept of humanity, the function of a average, individual to be that capable of walking. So when we say that someone is paralyzed, we've applied the concept of humanity, but then applied contingently the concept of paralyzation. Do you see what I mean? So the only reason that we can say that they are paralyzed in the first place is by saying that there is a function within them that has been frustrated, i.e. the capacity of movement.
Okay, look, I don't think you're answering the question, because my question is, do you have access to the intentions of this person that's paralyzed?
No, I can't access their individual
intentions. Then how could you know that they seek to express or actualize? I'm just going to say express.
Because they're
how can you know that?
Because they're human.
So how would it follow from being? How would it necessarily follow from being human that a human would seek to express their desires?
Because the concept of humanity includes a function in relation to the expression of desires. We know that humans are sentient and tries to express desires. They have pain and pleasure responses. They have action urging processes, and that is atypical of a human, unless we can say that there is something that we contingently apply to that. For example, the human is brain dead or in a coma, in a comatose state, which is actually that wouldn't even. I think it would have to be brain dead. Then yeah, would say that the individual is sentient and so is trying to express desire.
All right, look, can we just let's just back up for a second. Why does it necessarily follow that that because somebody is a human that it necessarily why is it that it necessarily follows that they seek to express their desires?
Because the concept of humanity includes the action urging process of desire, is what I would say. And I would also say that if you want to express if you want to talk about
I don't know what that is.
Human, well, the concept of humanity.
I don't look, no.
You don't understand the concept of humanity.
Well, I don't understand how that would be an informative argument as to why it would always necessarily follow that a human would necessarily express their desires in virtue of them being human.
Well, I think that what follows from it is unless there is a contingent concept being applied, then the human attempts to express their desires. So, like, unless the human is brain.
I'm not seeing an argument here. You're saying that in virtue of the fact that they're human, they necessarily seek to express their desires. You haven't provided a sufficient argument for that.
What I'm saying is that an understanding of what it means to be human, right, includes an understanding of desire in relation to one another, in which we attribute with each okay. The way
what if the individual does not have an understanding of what it means to be human?
Well,
would they still express?
Well, yes, I don't.
Would they still express desire?
Their understanding of being human is different from being human. That is like foundationally different, foundationally separate. So the expression of like their humanity is what they are.
Sorry, look. Are you going to provide an argument for why it would necessarily follow that being human would necessarily entail an expression of desire?
Okay, so what you want to know is why I think humans have desire. Like why they have desire.
You've claimed that being human necessarily entails an expression of desire. I'm just asking you, what's the argument for that?
Okay, right. Let's make this simple. Let's define human. Shall we define human?
Well, that's just ad hoc. I think we'd agree on what human is. What do you think a human is?
Okay, so I would say that a human is actually how shall we define human? This is actually going to be because I don't want to presuppose anything without justification. So,
well, look, as soon as we clear up this bullshit tangent, I'm just seeking for you to explain why it would follow that simply that being human necessarily entails an expression of desire. So don't forget that.
I'm not forgetting it. Don't worry. I'm very much keeping up.
I'm sure that we agree on what a human is. So what do you think a human is?
Okay, so I think it's a member of the Homo sapien species. Okay, I think we can agree on that. Okay, and that species is a kind of animal which interacts with the world in an attempt to express certain functions in relation to in relation to certain behavior. So humans, by definition, are mammals. They are they seek, food, water, shelter, in relation to avoiding pain and pleasure, which is not only directly observable but experienceable by an individual. I'm a human. I know that I seek to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And I would say that an understanding of these functions in the first place was the only way that we could have divested humanity from other kinds of animal, from other kinds of being, because those functions are metaphysically related to the individuals of that species and the way in which they behave. So humans, for example, seek sex to reproduce, whilst bacteria, split through, was it mitosis? So understanding that there is a function in relation to humanity and understanding that humans are animals, and the concept of animals, I would argue, implies a concept of consciousness and applies a concept of subjectivity. Now, we can debate that, and that's where I think you probably want to go. But so far, what I'm arguing is that subconscious, subjective agents who are in a relation to their species have certain functions, and that unless we have reason to believe that the individual, that the particular, is not an atypical expression of a universal concept, such as humanity, such as animal, such as subjective agent, then we would attribute those functions to that individual. So we would say, look, the atypical flower blooms. Okay, and that's what we would say was atypical about. And to be a flower would entail blooming. Now, if there was a flower, for some reason, it had like certain, attributes, which meant it didn't bloom, we would say that it's a flower, but it does not bloom. And we would attribute a secondary concept to that. Okay, now, are you following?
That's insane. I've never thought about it like that. You might think this is too oversimplified when I say this, but all I'm really asking you for is why it would be necessarily entailed from like being human that we would necessarily want to actualize our desires.
Okay, because I would say that
you haven't really answered the question, and you haven't really provided an argument for the question. You've just rambled about some random shit.
Oh, really? I think, to be entirely honest with you, if I'm honest, I think that you're struggling to keep up. And I'm going really slow. So
you're going very slow.
I'm trying for you. I really am. And I swear I'm normally really nice, but this is starting to annoy us. So what I'm trying to say here, if I may, okay, is that humans necessarily seek to express their desires, because to be considered human necessarily entails the expression of desire, and the understanding of a human without desire would imply a concept which was not human. So I will ask you, what name describe a human?
Hold on? Can we just pause there for the?
That do not have describe what it means to be human, okay, without expressing functionality, without expressing their action-urging processes which move them towards given ends.
Yeah, look, we'll just back it up, because whether or not say 100% of people consider humans to be it doesn't necessarily entail that humans would be A. Do you understand that?
Yes, what we would say is that there was enough evidence to say that they are A.
Then it just seems like you're appealing to like popularity.
No, that's exactly what I just said. Did you not hear us say that it's like the fittingness of the concept, right? That there is enough evidence to say that humans do feel desire, unless you're arguing that humans don't feel desire.
There's enough evidence in virtue of what?
In relation to either behaviorism or we can go materialism, your choice.
That's not informative. You're not giving me anything informative.
Okay, so in behaviorism, we can see that an individual's action or a behavior is modified by the stimuli around them. That stimuli implies a evaluation of reality. Now, what we also attribute is the understanding of conscious intention, and we do that in relation to behavioral changes in relation to a complex set of stimuli. So an individual doesn't simply react; they are able to problem solve.
Look. Can we start over? Like, can I call you something else instead of perspective philosophy?
Yeah, you can call us Lewis.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay, you can call me Don. My name's Don. So Lewis, what I was initially asking for is like just an argument as to why veganism is a moral obligation, and I think I was trying to lay it out like syllogistically, so we have something like on paper, and we can attack and like we can attack it, and we can look at it, and see if it's consistent. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends. Obviously, natural language arguments are, I would argue, just as valuable as syllogisms. But
yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. So why would you think there's a moral obligation? And if it comes to it, we'll put it in a syllogism.
Okay. So, how much before I get into this and I start using more terminology that I'm worried you mightn't have learned before. How much ethics have you studied? Just so I know how much I can say that's not in layman's terms, and how much I need to break down into layman's terms. So I don't want to go too slow, but I don't want to go. But I don't want to
just assume
esoteric language.
Yeah, dude, just assume I'm a layman. I'm a layman.
Okay. Right, let's see. Do you want to do this via, rather than doing this like through syllogism, do you want to try doing this via, I don't know, like maybe Socratically or something, like do pure dialogue? So,
If you want to run some kind of Socratic method, I'm totally open for that. Yeah.
Okay. So, right. How will I?
Can you give me like 30 seconds? Just hold on.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. No worries. I'm ready. Yep.
Okay. Right. So. Okay. Like, first thing we need to maybe consider is what is a moral obligation. Because you said that's the reason that you said you're agnostic to the idea of a moral obligation. So
yeah, look, I just don't know what a moral obligation would be.
Okay. So I typically, it's probably not so important for this discussion, but I typically separate morality and ethics in relation to a more.
Look. I don't look. I don't want to lecture. I'm just asking you.
I know.
What?
I'm just saying for the benefit of the
sorry,
chat.
Lewis. I'm just asking you directly. What is a moral obligation?
Okay, I would say a moral obligation is concerned with an individual's behavior being justified or unjustified. If it's an obligation, I would say that you ought to do it. That means you should or must do it. Otherwise, you are necessarily incorrect for not doing it. Okay.
Okay, so correct and incorrect in virtue of what? Let's just take murder for example. Let's won't even phrase it like that. Like we'll say killing. Like what would be correct in virtue of killing, and what would be incorrect in virtue of killing?
I mean, it's funny that you decided to take. Obviously, I know that the concept of murder is value loaded. But that obviously it's actually what's called a there's a
look.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
There's a specific. It's called a
when you say incorrect, all I'm taking to mean is that it's unjustified. And when you say correct, all I'm taking that to mean is that it's justified. Do you think I'm right?
Justified and unjustified is happy.
Yeah. So when you say like if someone kills someone incorrectly, like say you just said that, like in a
it would be like they've killed them incorrectly, that they were incorrect for killing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so we're on the same. Yeah.
Okay. So we need to understand obviously what killing is, and I would say that is an action taken by an individual to end the life of another. And I would say that any action, being an action, it implies that it was done for a specific end. Would you agree with that? Like, someone killed someone for a purpose, and it was in relation to trying to modify and change the world for a given conclusion on behalf of the individual who was trying to kill that person. So, like, I don't know, a murderer may try and kill someone for fun, and the goal is their own enjoyment. Or it could be someone in World War II or something being shot at, and the goal may be their own survival. Would you agree that there is always a goal implicit within action?
No, because look, I don't think that's the case, because I think there's I don't think there's a contradiction where there would be a case where there is no where there is like a lack of intention, not necessarily like a not necessarily like a void of intention, or like an empty, or like there's no intention. But I just don't see a contradiction where there would be a lack of intention, where someone could kill with a lack of intention, and it would still be killing, or like we'll just label it as killing.
Well, like, obviously, I would say that for any action to be understood properly, I would say it implies an intentional state within the agent. Would you disagree with that? So you disagree with that, yeah?
Disagree with what?
The idea of an action implying an intentional state within an agent.
I don't know what you're asking. What I'm saying is that I'm saying I don't think there's a contradiction where someone could kill and have a lack of intention.
Okay.
I don't think there's a contradiction there.
A lack of intent. You don't think that they could have a lack of intention? So that you would say that their intention was to kill, yeah? And that intention was in relation to, bringing around
I'm saying that they could be void of intentions and still kill.
Okay, there could be void of intentions and still kill.
Yeah, I don't see a contradiction with that.
Okay. Okay. What would
Like for example, a contradiction within that within that circumstance could be like they have an intention to kill, and they also have an intention to not kill, and then that there would be the contradiction that they intend to kill and they also don't intend to kill.
Well, I would say that fundamentally is I would say either impossible or the individual's intention. Like it wouldn't be that they were like even void of intention. I would say that an individual could have an intention to kill and then change their mind, or they could have an intention to kill, or not an intention to kill and then accidentally kill. But then I would not say that they could have both an intention in relation to an action, because if they had both the action urging process to do something and not to do something, well, then there would be no mediation between those positions. And
right, but then you're just moving the goal. Then you're just moving the goalpost.
I'm trying to understand what you think an action actually is. So if we take it that that the process of acting in the world depends upon, and you think it doesn't depend upon an intentional state, which means where would the
it's not that it doesn't depend on an intentional state. It's that it doesn't necessarily depend on an intentional state. That's what I'm trying to point out.
So what would the movement, as in the process from which
I don't think any of this matters. What I'm really asking you for is why hold on. What I'm really asking you for is why do we have an obligation to be vegan, to not kill animals?
Okay,
and you haven't provided that.
I'm trying to talk about an understanding of one's own intentional states and subjectivity as being necessary for engagement in ethics. And
you're insufferable.
Look, I'm insufferable, but you struggle to even understand the most basic concepts. I'm not going to lie. You wanted to debate, please, for the love of God, even just, I don't know, do a GCSE or something. Anything, just something a little bit more basic than a debate. Maybe even watch a lecture or two. I don't know, just read. I'm sorry to say that, but if you can't understand the most, for example, if I'm talking about what is an action, and I ask you what an action is, and you go, well, that doesn't matter. Well, that's not a debate, is it? You just, every time I try to ask you a question, well, none of this matters. I just want to know the end. I want to understand the entirety of the argument. Well, the entirety of the argument, if I'm trying to explain an argument to you, right, and you can't understand the most fundamental precepts of the argument, then you need to go and learn something before entering a debate. You clearly don't know enough about ethics.
But I want to know what the argument is.
You said I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to lecture you.
I want to know what the argument is.
I suggest learning a little bit more about ethics before you engage in argumentation.
That's not an argument.
Well, it wasn't meant to be an argument. It was actually an observation.
Okay. So what's the argument? That we have a moral obligation to not eat animals.
Okay, let's say we are necessarily obliged to express our own subjectivity, and that the expression of our own subjectivity entails the consideration of subjectivity as a whole, because the only way to understand subjectivity is through engagement into a universal. And I don't really think you understand the most basic ethics. Have you read any ethics?
Look, you're just shifting the goalpost at every single point.
I'm not shifting any goalposts. I'm not sure.
Every single time I ask you the question, you shift the goalpost. It's insane.
Goalposts. Look. All right. I'm gonna.
Okay. So let me pull up my notes. I said so. So the first, shut the fuck up. We're debating. Shut up, cunt.
Hi. I'm not gonna be.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut
No.
up.
All right, Ned, kick him. No, yeah, I think we can end this here.